Welcome to Clayton, the historic home of the Henry Clay Frick family at the Frick Art and Historical Center in Pittsburgh. Henry Clay Frick was a wealthy industrialist and art collector who lived here with his wife Adelaide and their children from 1882 until 1905, when they moved to New York City. In addition to Clayton, the site encompasses an art museum, a car and carriage museum, and a working greenhouse. The rooms on the first floor of Clayton are richly decorated public spaces where friends and family would have been received by the Fricks. The parlor, with its lavish wall coverings and Turkish-style furniture, was used for entertaining visitors. On display in this room and throughout the entire house are examples of Mr. Frick's art collection, which ranged from landscapes to portraiture to works by old masters. Clayton's dining room was the scene of everything from intimate family dinners to a luncheon given in honor of President Theodore Roosevelt in 1902. It was in the kitchen that the domestic staff worked to prepare meals for the family and themselves, and answered the summons of the family from the annunciator, an electric apparatus connected to call buttons in each room. Our tour today will take you up the staircase, past the four ladies of literature stained glass windows, and into the private rooms upstairs. The first room on the second floor is Mr. Frick's bedroom. His role as a family man is evident in the photographs and personal items on display. Many of the works of art you see were purchased by Mr. Frick early in his career as a collector. This bedroom was remodeled during a renovation by architect Frederick Osterling in 1892. And the bathroom was one of a number added to Clayton in 1897. Wealthy businessmen were among the first to install plumbing systems and full bathrooms in their homes. While Clayton boasted several bathrooms at the turn of the 20th century, most Pittsburgh industrial workers were still using outdoor privies. It was here that Mr. Frick recovered from an assassination attempt that took place during the Homestead Lockout and Strike of 1892, a lengthy and violent conflict that effectively ended the power of unions in the United States for more than 40 years. When it was time to renegotiate the contract with the Amalgamated Association of Iron and Steel Workers, Frick was given full authority by Andrew Carnegie to create a non-union plant. Negotiations failed with the union, and Mr. Frick barred and then fired more than 3,000 workers and hired 300 Pinkerton guards to protect the plant. When the Pinkertons arrived on barges, a fight broke out and a number of workers and guards were killed. A few days later, Alexander Berkman, an anarchist from New York, entered Mr. Frick's office in the city and tried to kill him by shooting him twice and stabbing him 3 times. Because of the assassination attempt, the tide turned against the union in favor of management, and the strike came to a bitter end. During the Gilded Age, it was common for upper-class husbands and wives to have separate bedrooms. Mrs. Frick's roles as wife, mother, and household manager are felt strongly here in her room. Collages of photographs are dated in her handwriting, and dresser sets on display were gifts to her from Mr. Frick and her children. More servant call buttons are located next to Mrs. Frick's bed than anywhere else in the house. From here, Mrs. Frick could summon staff members to plan the daily menu, receive housekeeping orders, or bring refreshments. As we moved to the adjoining nursery, we passed through Mrs. Frick's bathroom with its lovely motif of original hand-stenciled flowers. An interesting feature is the bidet, which has numerous control knobs, including one labeled L-Spray, that would send stimulating streams of water across the lower back. In 1889, when she was 10 years old, Helen Clay Frick wrote the following about her bedroom at Clayton. "My bedroom has 3 beds in it. One is Mademoiselle's, the other is mine. No one sleeps in the other. There is a bureau, 3 chairs, a sofa in it, and a washstand. There are 3 windows, a big one and 2 little ones. The big window looks out on our garden, and one of the little ones also, the other one to the stables. It is so, so pretty. There are pretty flowers and birds painted on the ceiling and walls, but what I like best is that my bedroom is quite near my dear Mama's, and I love to be always near her. If all the children had such a pretty room as mine, there would not be any of them sad or unhappy." A narrow staircase outside the nursery leads to the 3rd and 4th floors. Son Child's room was on the 3rd floor, along with several guest and servant rooms. The 4th floor housed Helen's schoolroom, along with the private room of George Dupre, the family's French chauffeur. Down the hall from the nursery are the library and sitting room. Perhaps more than any other place in the house, these rooms offered the Fricks a quiet, private place to come together as a family, or to spend time alone reading or writing letters. On display in the library is an eclectic mix of decorative arts objects, such as this example of rookwood pottery showing Chief Goose, a Sioux Indian, a lovely English cameo engraved glass vase, and this stunning Dalton & Company porcelain vase with an enamel and gilded Art Nouveau design. In the sitting room, we find a collection of artworks including Bord de la Seine à la Vapeur by Claude Monet, purchased by Mr. Frick in 1901. Still Life by William Michael Harnett is an excellent example of trompe-l'oeil, or fool-the-eye painting. This small work, made by Childs Frick as a young boy, hangs proudly by his mother's desk. Decorated in cool hues with hand-painted, hand-stenciled floral wall covering, the aptly named Blue Room was one of several guest rooms in Clayton and is the only one on the 2nd floor. The dark mahogany furniture and matching woodwork, which seems to fill the room, was made by the firm of Matthews Brothers and Company in Wisconsin in 1892. In the late 1800s, machine-made furniture indicated that the owner was affluent enough to buy furniture made with the use of expensive new equipment that turned the long, twisted columns ornamenting each piece. Over the years, many family and friends undoubtedly stayed in this room, but perhaps its most famous visitor was President Theodore Roosevelt, who rested here after having lunch at Clayton on July 4, 1902. The Fricks moved to New York City in 1905. They never sold Clayton and returned a few times each year, in particular at Christmas time. During the 23 years they spent at Clayton, it was a home where the family lived, their household staff worked, and where prominent public figures visited and were entertained.